see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any...
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
What's up, everybody? It's another episode of Coast to Coast. I am your host, Pags, with my co-host, Bo McLovin, to come when he comes. How you doing today, Bo?
Doing good, man. It's Friday. How about you?
Same thing. It is Friday here. I get questions right away coming in, say, hey, am I going to the Baltimore game? No. Those tickets are expensive. And for not having a skin in the game, I will not be attending that game. But
yeah, I saw they were like $2,100.
Yeah, some of them were great. Just to get in the stadium was like close to $800 for that.
Yeah.
Unless I get a request to show up from Taylor Swift herself, I'm probably not going to attend. So,
and Paul, absolutely.
But since we got off yesterday, there's been a lot of changes that has happened over here in the last little bit. So it's the Falcons hired a head coach. And it is not Bill Belichick.
Yep.
They hire Rams defensive coordinator Morris.
Yep.
What are your thoughts?
It made sense to me, and it's funny because Sports Illustrated came out this morning saying that one of the things that got them away from Bill Belichick is they were looking at it as a short-time hire. And I always thought that was going to be the biggest problem with somebody trying to go after Belichick or even Pete Carroll is they're 72. Best case, maybe you get 5 years out of them, and you're looking at two guys that have a culture they like to build that takes time. So it's not like they just step in and the way they run is similar to everybody else. They kind of have their own things, and to turn a franchise around is probably going to take you a couple of years to adopt your culture. But if you're only going to be there for, 4 or 5 years, you're going to get that culture finally ingrained, and then you're in a coaching search again. So it made sense they didn't go with the Belichick route. Outside of that, I guess it's an okay hire. Like it's all right. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but we'll see what he can do there.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how he's going to pan out. Obviously, he's been there with the Rams for a couple of years, I think, correct? They didn't lose a defensive coordinator since the Super Bowl. At least not that I remember.
He's been pretty solid, right? Especially when you figure he's had to dial up defenses with sort of a lack of talent. Like they got a couple of key players, but there's no depth. So as soon as anybody goes down, it's the biggest thing with the Rams in general. Is after their Super Bowl year, they had to punt half their players to make the cap. So they got a few stars here and there. And then outside of that, I hope nobody gets hurt.
Well, didn't they? They did have like a Pro Bowl, like all pro cornerback that they wind up trading for. And then they do have quite possibly the most, the best defensive player of this decade.
There's no doubt. Aaron Donald is an absolute stud. No question. They just don't have, it's not like they got all pros all over this defense, right? Like they got a couple of dudes and then the rest of it is decent, right? It's not bad. It's not great. So, it shows you that he can maximize what they can do with the talent he has, which is encouraging if it's a head coach, right? Because it means people follow you. So that's an important element.
Agreed. It does So, but it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's not the big name signing that people from Atlanta may have wanted.
Sure.
Uh, but I tell you what, they said football is the third sport in that city, followed behind soccer and then baseball. So um,
Yeah.
that's interesting how that plays out. So I mean, I guess this is going to make a little blip on the radar, but I wish him the best. Let's
Yep.
good luck there, Raheem, and he's got a pretty decent team to start with. He
Yep.
just is going to need a quarterback like everybody else in this league. So
Absolutely.
um,
Well,
being
that's one less phone call the Seahawks are going to make.
yes, that is correct. So. And then we did announce yesterday that Canales was the head coach of the Panthers. Again, I'm interested to see how that is structured. Obviously they hired a new GM, and with that hiring of that GM, who has got Delco roots. I mean, he grew up right down the street from me in Clifton Heights. So
Oh, okay.
that GM, so he knows what it's like to be Delco, and that's definitely it's definitely a way of living and such. So to bring that down there, I'm interested to see how they are going to ensure that this guy is going to be given a real chance rather than a come and go thing.
Yeah, that's the question, right? Does he get a real shot? You would hope so. I mean, otherwise this hiring is pointless.
I agree, but we'll see. Obviously, things are going to you know play out how they are. He's not going to have a first round pick in the draft, and ultimately, I think he gets his first pick. Though is what 33.
Yep.
Because they're going to have the first pick in the second round, which is like a first round pick almost, except you don't have to pay them that ridiculous amount of money.
True.
And
That is true.
and he might be able to figure something out, and maybe even trade up to get into the first round again. You never know. I mean, obviously, having the 33rd pick isn't the worst thing in the world. Being the first guy to pick on day two is actually not a bad spot to be in.
No, it gives you the entire night to really look at the board and what it is you want to do. Like it's not a bad spot. Obviously, your hallmark talent is already off the board generally, but but then it gives you the night to really focus in on what it is you want. So yeah, I mean, I don't hate that pick for sure.
So, and it actually does cover some weight. So, like you might be able to trade up into the first round if there is maybe a quarterback like Penix that's falling. You know what I mean? That people decide maybe not. That you might be able to get into the 20s somewhere by offering maybe that first pick in the second round, then a second pick, like a second number two pick next year, because you don't want to trade up another first uh, to first. But again, it's going to be a quarterback that gets them anywhere, and they spent some money on a quarterback, so maybe you don't have to do that. I
Yeah,
guess we'll see. If he likes who he's got over there. Ultimately, they got to spend money on an offensive line to protect the quarterback to first and foremost.
there is no doubt.
Then worry about rushing the other quarterback. That's that's how championships are won.
Yep.
Hopefully, some of these coaches can bring over that logic to them. I, I saw a couple of reports. They got Saquon Barkley already going. The Giants are going to lose Saquon,
Yep.
and actually, it actually was. I've read three stories already that got him that with the Eagles, and
Really?
I'm like, first thing I think of is that the Eagles ain't going to pay for him like that.
Yeah.
I'm all of a sudden things aren't going to change unless they change the entire philosophy. That's going to really depend on the offensive coordinator. You
Sure.
know, 2 years ago, the Eagles made it to the Super Bowl by running the football.
Hmm.
This past year, they got away from that. They decided not to run. They decided to pass more. And ultimately, we're not back in the Super Bowl. But the running game was something fierce. I mean, we had a pretty good running attack, especially for the first 11 weeks of the season. We had probably the best running attack.
Yeah.
So to all of a sudden get away from it in the last 6 weeks and to change the whole philosophy and find that that philosophy failed, ultimately, that's what changed the biggest is that we started losing time of possession.
Yeah.
And when you have a bend and break defense, as I know you guys laugh at every time I say,
Hey, and it was. There is no doubt. Like it was ugly.
yeah, that means that you are going to give up points. So when you're running the football, you take time away from the other team coming in, you're going to stop them on occasion. Not every team is going to score every touchdown. Although it didn't look that way for a little while when it was Dallas scored six and the San Francisco scored six in a row and Dallas scored, on 6 drives in a row. And,
Yep.
we can make Drew Lock look like Joe Montana, in the last 2 minutes of a game. And, so those types of things still occur. But ultimately, if you are running the football, there's less opportunities for them to occur. And if you go down and you score a touchdown and take 9 to 10 minutes off of a clock, 8 minutes off of a clock, the other team feels nervous that they
Mhm.
got to score quickly. And that's when you start to make mistakes.
Well, and
So,
if they were in a rhythm, taking that kind of time off can kind of get them out of their rhythm because they've been off the field for so long. So the worst thing is letting someone score and then go three and out and give them the ball right back. Like that, that usually ends up in you're about to have a long day.
yes, especially in like the first quarter, second quarter of
Hmm.
things. You can't have it happen in the first half, or
Right.
really the first drive in the second half, because that's when you start to get nervous. You start to try to speed up what's going on around you, and as they said in the replacements, quicksand is a real thing.
It definitely is.
So, and that's the way things occur. You start to get so okay. Things start to go bad, and that's kind of what happened with the Eagles.
Mhm.
I mean, across the board. I mean, when you think about even the Cardinals game, we were up in that game till the end.
Yeah.
We just lost it at the end. Uh, Same thing with the Giants. The Giants almost came back. Same thing with the Seahawks. The Seahawks came back. It was the things that were happening in the first 11 games weren't happening because they were getting over that hump, where the Cowboys didn't get over that hump, but they were right there knocking on the door and we stopped them last second. Uh, Again, the Seahawks were able to go down there and score a touchdown. When it came to Dallas the second time around, we couldn't stop them a little bit. And the 49ers says, well, we showed them the playbook on how to beat them. He didn't show the playbook on how to beat them. The Eagles did exactly what I said they would. The only team that was going to beat the Eagles was the Eagles, and they did. So it's hard. It's going to be hard going, making these decisions moving forward on how to resolve this. And I do not believe that Kellen Moore is the answer, but I don't get paid any money to make those decisions.
Yep.
So
Yeah. I mean, so to Chris's point here, this is why I wouldn't like Barkley. There is he is injury prone. I mean, he's only had a couple of seasons where he didn't ultimately miss a bunch of times. So, um, yeah,
yeah, but he was also the feature back and the feature guy in the offense.
sure.
So when you are running the ball and touching the ball 30 to 35 times a game,
Yep.
it's likely you're going to get hurt. And ultimately you're going to get
Yeah.
hurt. That's why it's so hard for quarterbacks to make it through an entire season without getting hurt because they touch the ball every offensive play for the
Yeah.
most part. I feel that Barkley in the right system, where he's touching the ball 20 times a game
Yes.
or less,
You know,
could
I
be
don't think
beneficial.
I don't think he can touch it less though, because he is one of those running backs that needs some carries to get going. Like,
Right. But you always see, and I've always paid attention to the fact that he always gets hurt going wide.
Oh, trying
When
to
he
get around
gets,
the edge. I gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah, I guess I never really paid attention to where on the field he's gotten hurt. But yeah, I mean, I guess if he's trying to extend or something, then I guess that makes sense.
And that's, and that's where I feel like most of his injuries occur. He is a north-south runner. He's got, I don't know if anybody's ever seen Barkley without his pads on. This guy has got tree trunks as legs. You
Yes.
know, he is straight north south. And that's where you should do most of it. You go him off tackle
Yep.
or, in the A gap
Yep.
even. You can kind of go right up the middle with him and you stunt and do all of those things. When you're the one thing that the Eagles do when they start to go off tackle and go wide is that they like to um pull the center or pull the guards,
Yep.
and they get a train going. Uh, the Giants weren't able to do that. They did not have an offensive line that was able to get out there. So you wind up putting him. Uh, you have the blockers being wide receivers, maybe a tight end,
Yep.
but Waller was never really good at blocking. You know what I mean? So you can't really use him. And the moment they tried to have him block, he got hurt because that's what he
True.
does. He gets hurt.
Yeah.
So there may be some difference moving forward for the Eagles when that occurs. Like if he was to come here. But uh, are they going to keep both? Would they have both Barkley and Swift? Doubt it.
No way. No, you're going to have one or the other.
Right. And my thought is that for some reason they love Gainwell. And I understand he had a great playoffs, 2 years ago, but that went downhill tremendously.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, Rashad Penny got the ball whole 6 times.
That was still such a shock to me. I really thought he was going to get mixed in because he is a dynamic runner. And because they like to run around the edge, he's actually really good at that. Like that is part of his wheelhouse. He's not a bruiser up the middle and stay healthy. Like that's generally where he got hurt. So, if you have pulling guards and you give him that edge, I mean, he's fast. So he can make some plays. He can make a guy miss. He just happens to not be super durable. So going around the edge is actually better for him.
Well, see, and that's fine, I guess, but they didn't like that. I guess they didn't like him at all. And it's like I said, it's they. I will say the Eagles get a little weird when it comes to running backs sometimes. Uh, and same thing with like Boston Scott. Obviously, Boston Scott's still on this team. He's an unrestricted free agent right now. Not sure if he's going to make it back. They do like the short, stubby backs. You know what I mean? That's something that they like. They feel like that somebody like Boston Scott can get lost behind big men.
Sure.
And that's, I mean, they've had that when they had. Oh my God, it's going to kill me that I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. I'm feeling like you from yesterday when I don't. Uh, uh, he was with San Diego. He ran the kicks back. He was the last time that we actually had somebody score a touchdown. Jai is also somebody else that fell into that category, but different. Short guy. I know you know who I'm talking about.
Wait, you talking about like Sproles or something?
Sproles. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I knew that it was on the tip of my tongue. I couldn't get it. They love that style of back.
Yeah.
Boston Scott is not Sproles.
Sure.
And that's
There's
the
not
thing.
a lot of guys that are Sproles.
Jay Ajayi, same situation. They used Jay Ajayi when they went to the Super Bowl. When they brought him back, he wondered himself, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Like, you guys aren't using me. Like, it's like, again, he was the bruiser back. It was the same thing with Howard. They didn't use him. And all Howard did was go through the line, carry defenders with him, and gain 5 yards. That's what he would do on a consistent basis. Sometimes he'd get hurt because that's what happens when you're carrying guys with you. Sometimes you got 3 guys on your back and then somebody takes your legs out. Well, that's going to hurt a little bit. But ultimately, they they didn't.
Yeah.
They didn't use him, and they didn't utilize him, just like they didn't utilize Penny. And in the process of this, they did not. Gainwell was not the bruiser back.
Mhm.
So maybe that's why they gave it was a toss up between Swift and Penny. Penny lost, so he didn't play, and
Yeah.
Swift was the one that was being used. If Swift got hurt, because even in games like I thought that Penny would be used in games of like rain days, things like that, when it was wet out and you wanted to protect Swift. That's
Yeah.
when you would use Penny. Like,
Yeah.
hey, it's
But you want to use Penny up the middle because he looks like a big bruising back. He just isn't durable enough to be that guy.
and Brad, it's interesting that you asked that question because that's exactly what it is we are talking about right now. Does Saquon Barkley fit with the Philadelphia Eagles? And I say that he kind of does, but he does go against. It goes against the money. I don't think that they're going to spend even $10 million with him on that. You know what I mean? And yes, that was another thing. They
Yep.
like their backs to block, and ultimately, if they knew Penny was in there, they knew it was a run play.
Yeah.
So part of that had something to do with this. I think. I mean, ultimately, uh, the RPOs work when you have the right personnel to make the options available to you.
Mhm.
When you don't have that option available to you, and they did a lot of RPO stuff, and the problem was is that it became way too predictable. You knew what was coming, you saw what was happening. RPOs only work if you have unpredictability,
Yeah.
and that was part of the issue. So when Penny was in there, you knew he was going to run the ball because he ain't pass blocking, and his hands ain't the best for catching the ball either.
No,
So
inconsistent. There's no doubt.
so you're not throwing him the ball, and then you're not um, blocking with him, and that makes him very one dimensional.
Yep.
So it's great for when you're winning the game big in the fourth quarter and you just want to run the ball. Send him out there. You know what I mean? Because you know what? We're running the ball. Stop us now if you
Yep.
can. And ultimately, that's what eventually occurs. But I don't know. Do you guys think you'll take Penny back?
Oh God, no, 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 no. It doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, every year that he was in Seattle, he was hurt every single year. So it was just what varying number of games is he going to be available? Um, it didn't make sense. Like when you look at his build, you're like, oh yeah, he could be that guy. And he's fast, so if he does break through, he can definitely make a huge play out of it. But when he's getting hit by linemen that drop off the line to stuff a run play, or you got some of those big middle linebackers, he gets hurt, which is why some of his best plays were around the edge. um Now he has had some plays up the middle, obviously, right? But he's just not that he's not that bruiser kind of back, even though he looks like he could be. He has a lot of Sean Alexander in him. Like, he doesn't want that contact.
Uh, yes, I know that. That's why we got rid of Sanders.
Yeah.
Sanders didn't like the contact,
Yeah.
especially when it was cold.
Mm.
Ooh, that Chicago game was the one that signed his release at the end of the season. When the Eagles played Chicago, and he was, as Hollis Thomas calls it, when I would travel with him, that he was tipping. He'd be like tiptoeing because he didn't want to get hurt and he didn't want to get hit in the cold, and that it messes with you some. So when you see that, and some of the games that we play in Philadelphia, and sometimes it gets cold.
Oh yeah.
So sometimes it's really cold, usually right around the end of the season. So that's a thing that really did happen, and ultimately he wound up in Carolina and was really, I mean, along with everything else of that offense, non-existent.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if he remains with that team or they wind up moving on from him even. Uh, so it'll be interesting to kind of see. Barkley is not that guy. He's not afraid to take on. I mean, he played over at Penn State, and he actually did play rather than be the backup. So ultimately, he knows how to play in cold weather because it gets cold up there, very cold.
And he doesn't shy away from getting hit. There's no doubt. Like
Right.
Barkley will hit you.
Right. And ultimately, like I said, if you've seen him, I watched him. I went to the celebrity softball game and he was there. And when you see this guy, his thighs are tree trunks. They are
Yep.
tree trunks. So that's that's the power of a running back. It was the same thing. It's the same thing with CMC. They were showing him and they were showing the pounding thing on his leg and whatever. You look at his body and then you look at them pounding on that leg, and that leg is like bigger than the rest of his body.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's almost comical.
Hmm.
But that's what really makes a good running back in the first place. As funny as this sounds to equate it to a different sport, I can't stand Sidney Crosby. Hate Sidney Crosby to the end of the earth. You know what I mean? Because he's a Pittsburgh Penguin. I have a disdain for the Penguins like I have a disdain for the Cowboys. I grew up with it. We just never liked the Penguins. And ultimately, Sidney Crosby, I would never want him to be a flyer
Okay.
because I always want to hate him. And if I hate you, that's a sign of respect.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It's not, I don't put out that I hate people very often. When I hate you as a player, that is the ultimate sign of respect.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I'm going
'Cause
to
it means
give
you're
him that.
dominant.
Same situation, though.
Yeah.
He's got monster tree trunks for legs.
Mhm.
He looks frumpy. When you look at his body, he looks like this real, like, chubby dork.
Yeah.
And his legs are just monsters. And that's why he is such a great player. That's why and beyond that, he's got great sight. So, that's as much as I'm going to talk good about Sidney Crosby. Yeah, those are the things that make you a great player. That's what makes a good running back. I got to imagine similar situations across all sports. Fall that if you can run, I got to imagine some of the best soccer players in the world have that same type of situation. They have the friggin' hips and the thighs that can go for days, and that's what makes them so great.
Well,
Got
and it
to
gives you
imagine.
that low center of gravity. So in things like hockey and of course football, you don't knock over easy, right? Like if somebody
Right.
battles you up against the board, you're not hitting the ice necessarily. Or as a running back, you break a lot of tackles, low center of gravity. So I mean, yeah, having tree trunks is important.
So, I again, uh, all that being said, do I think he becomes an Eagle? Uh, I I I would like it, but I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see that happening. And it would be a big shift if we were to get him. You could tell that there would be a monster shift to the run game because that's the only reason why that he would be here. You were going to use him. You'd have to use him because you're going to have to pay him, and they don't like to pay people and not use them. So we will see if
I mean, I don't think you guys get him.
I don't think so
It
either.
just doesn't seem like something the Eagles would do. But it'd be interesting. It would definitely add add a dynamic that you don't currently have.
Interestingly enough, if there's going to be a team that I think is going to pay ridiculous, stupid money, if they can figure out the way to make it all work and happen, it would be the Cowboys.
I would like that pickup there. They could definitely utilize him. Um, Man, I don't know. I don't know how they'd pay for him.
Well, that's exactly it. The hard part about that is that you would have to restructure Dak's contract right now and sign him for like another 5 years.
Yeah,
Load it
yeah,
to
backload
4
it.
years from now.
Yeah,
So that it's all 4 years from now is where you're crushing it.
yeah.
And then cut him then and eat your losses in 4 years. Because if you think that you're going to, the one thing I will say about any franchise is you will mortgage tomorrow for a Super Bowl today.
Well, especially if you're Jerry Jones, because dude's 80. So,
Right.
I mean, he is very much in the, if I'm going to get one, I have to get it now. Because, I mean, I have to imagine at that point in your life, you are looking at, there's fewer days ahead of you than behind you. So,
Yeah, he would, as they would say, he's in the winter of his life.
yeah, winter is
um,
coming and it's here.
exactly. And it seems like it's really chilly over there because he thought, like I said, it's always interesting when you see a reaction from the owner so profound. Do
Yeah.
you love him or hate him? Jerry Jones is by far the most public owner in football.
Oh,
And
yeah.
to watch his reaction for that uh, was profound. I got to imagine that that's got to affect the players even a little bit to see that, like, whoa, I've never seen the man cry before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And here it is. He's so filled with emotion, and I got to imagine some of that emotion's anger. He was so angry that the tears started to,
Oh, it,
come
it's
out.
got to be. It's got to be, especially when you think of how well they were playing throughout the season, certainly at home, and then to just get absolutely torched.
Well, and by Green Bay, who is usually the holder of the flame on you guys getting torched for
Yes.
whatever reason that is.
Yep. I mean,
Was
every
it you that
franchise
sent
has
that
that.
video?
What's that?
Was it you that sent that video?
Of
The TikTok. I don't have it right now, but you sent it via text to me and Jay,
oh
where it was like the one guy standing. He's like, "Oh yeah, so who we gonna play? Oh, you guys are playing the Packers." And then the guy's
yes,
just like,
yes, yeah,
it shows all the times that the Packers have beat him and stuff, that beaten the Cowboys and such.
yep.
It's very interesting to me that they were able to kind of do that. But what it sounded like as I was talking to the super fan of the Cowboys, he said that the energy in that building was looking ahead across the board. Everybody was looking ahead,
Wow,
and when
that,
you have that type of energy,
you're
I
gonna get
feel
beat.
that I feel like you know I feel that teams do feed off of fan energy all the time.
Yeah,
It is a big deal, and when you are cheering very loudly and things like that, that it's felt. When the energy in a building is so strong, the team feels it. The other team feels it too. You know what I mean? They feel
yeah,
like, whoa, like you could tell when you walk into a building what it feels like. I have felt it on both sides. I have felt it when it's been great and when it's been great for the other team, and I have felt when it's not been there, when there's been an air of nervousness,
yeah.
and when fans are nervous, the team is nervous, and you could feel it. You can feel it. And I got to imagine that what he said was 100% correct. That they were looking ahead. They had that feeling and mentality that the fan base was like, this is a write off. We're moving forward and we're going.
Mhm.
And they didn't, and the Packers just took advantage.
Yeah.
And you made the man cry.
I
Made the
mean,
man cry.
you can't look ahead. You certainly can't look ahead in the playoffs. But I mean, you can't sleep on any team in the NFL because uh, that's that whole any given Sunday thing, right? Like they're all still professionals. Like if you let up, if you aren't focused, they will come and beat you.
And they did. I mean,
Absolutely.
obviously, they didn't come to lose. They came to beat them
Yep.
in your house. And hey, you guys went 8-0 in the regular season. Guess what? 0-1 in the playoffs means you're still going home.
Yep. Exactly. At least it was a short drive because didn't even have to leave.
Yeah. And they're talking about even with the Rams.
Yeah.
That Seattle thought that they had something good. Blah, blah, blah. Nope.
Yeah. Yep.
And you're right, this is the NFL. These guys are getting paid a lot of money on the other side of the ball too. You
Yep.
know what I mean? So, and they want to win beyond anything else. They want to win. The want to win is there. You know, unless you're Carolina and you're like 2-12 and you still got to finish out the string. Yeah, at that point you're just trying to get out of there now. Now you're just trying to get out. You know,
Yeah, I
you
mean, at
might
that
be able to
point,
keep it close, but you have
yeah.
the defeatist attitude.
I mean, the only way you're getting up for a game at that point in the season really is, can we play spoiler against somebody? Is somebody coming in that needs this game? Then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we got something to play for because we've been getting killed all year, but I can wreck their season. Let's do that.
You know, and you could say that that was the propulsion for Detroit to get to where they are this year by
Sure.
knocking Green Bay out last year,
Yep.
playing that final game, and making sure Green Bay did not make the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers' last game as a Green Bay Packer was an L
Yep.
at the hands of the Detroit Lions. And, you know, there was something to be said for that, that was what propelled them. Said, hey, listen, we are a good team. We missed the playoffs by 1 point to Seattle.
Yep.
It was 1 point that made the difference.
Absolutely.
So ultimately, it's like, okay, we're not going to have that happen this year. We're going to make sure that we win enough games. They won their division, and now they are in the conference championship. And like I said, I'm very happy for all the Detroit Lions fans that are out there and making the trek as we speak to Santa Clara to go watch this game. And it'll be interesting because as of right now, I know that Debo is still a game time decision, but trending out. And that's going to be a big deal.
Well, he was a go in practice yesterday though.
I thought that he was limited.
So he was limited, but he was in. And it sounds like, it does sound like it's a game time decision, but I mean,
He's a gamer. He's going to want
he,
to play.
he's a gamer and he's going to have 2 weeks if they win. Right. So like he'll have the opportunity to get better. Do I think he's going to be as effective as when he's healthy? Of course not. But if he's out there, you have to account for him. And that's a scary proposition when you're the Lions because that secondary is very beatable.
Yes. And actually, as we're talking about guys that are going to be activated, Andrews was also, I did read that he is activated for this game as well. So
That's huge.
that is going to be a big thing for them.
Yeah.
I mean, not that I felt like that they absolutely needed him, but it is going to help. I feel like he's going to be more of a decoy than anything, but you got to still respect it. You know,
Exactly.
and that's really what it comes down to. So you throw him the very first pass of the game, and he decoys the rest of the game. That's exactly it. That's how I would utilize him,
Yep.
and I would make sure to run away from him. You don't want to run towards him where he's got to block and he's got to do anything. You just got to run away from him, and you have him out there decoy.
Absolutely. Give him a few targets that are 15 yards, 15-yard outs, right? That way he catches the ball, he gets out of bounds, he doesn't get smashed. Don't purposely murder him, giving him something across the middle.
Right. So, all right. The other name that's been popping around lately, obviously he didn't work out as a head coach, but the defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, is getting a lot of play. They want to talk to him up in Green Bay. They want to talk to him. I know that he was mentioned in a couple of other jobs as well, but right now the Packers.
Nobody's worried about his defense being atrocious while he was coach.
Yeah, but I think that was part of the problem is that some people are meant to be coaches. Some people are meant to be coordinators. When you are focused on the one side of things, then it makes things a lot easier. When you have to focus on the whole, I figure the hardest part of a coach who is a defensive coordinator is learning offenses. Because now you have to learn your offense better than you know your defense because you already know your defense.
Sure.
So you gotta do the offense. And maybe that's kind of what it was. I thought maybe he went too much on that side of things.
I mean, that's why you get an offensive coordinator. Like work in the area where you're good, and then learn the job from the, you know, clock management, situational football stuff. I mean, obviously there's a learning curve there that you got to figure out, which he was not particularly good at. But if you're the DC slash head coach, then you focus on that part and let your OC be the OC. Like if you're starting to focus on that, you're going to micromanage the guy that you brought in because you don't know that side of the ball. That doesn't make any sense at all. You know,
No,
if that's how it went down.
exactly. I mean, or you got to make sure that you choose the right guy. So 2 years
Exactly.
ago they did okay. Last year they didn't do okay, and when you let up 63 points in a game, which was still only the second highest score of that year,
Right. How weird is
then
that?
you don't, they were like, yeah, we can't see this again. When you feel like your team has quit on you, that's okay. That's it. As an owner, I got to imagine they were like, yeah, this team quit, got to go.
Well,
Cannot be here.
especially against a team that the week before got shut out.
Right. Yeah, but they also fired their coach. I think wasn't that they fired the coach and then it was really the team kind of took over
Well,
completely.
no,
They were
they
like,
fired the coach. I believe after that game, right? After they got shut out by the Vikings.
That's what I'm talking about. And then the
Yeah,
following week, the inmates took over the asylum there.
yeah.
And that's what I was told, that the inmates literally, the team was playing for the team and that's it. They didn't care who was going to be the coach or whatever, that the players were doing all of the workings of the team. At
Well,
least that was the rumor.
to the tune of 60 points, you can't be that mad at
Yeah,
it.
no, they actually obviously they showed that they could actually play. And when you beat a team so badly like that, I mean, obviously the Broncos were able to come back from getting 70 scored on them and started to have a halfway decent second half of the season. Um, but ultimately, you get 70, you got 63. Interestingly enough, that all happened in the
The
West.
West, exactly. Yeah.
So the defenses weren't playing so strong and such like that. So it'll be interesting to see if he actually lands with the Packers and can do anything with that defense. Obviously, they are a young team, and maybe that's what it is. You need youth coaching the young team so that they can, you know, just follow the
Now,
lead.
if you were a player, right, and you're looking at this potential hire, and you're looking at the defenses that he was, you know, the head of there for the Chargers, which none of them have been great, really.
Yeah,
Despite
but he was the head coach of the Rams when, not the head coach. He was the defensive coordinator of the Rams when they won the Super Bowl.
no, for sure. No. I'm just saying based on what he was doing there, because they had a ton of talent on that roster, right? Like it's one of the most expensive defenses in the league for being. I mean, they were terrible, but they shouldn't have been. Um, you know, these players. I'm curious what the feeling is if they do bring him in. It's like, oh, like is he going to be that Rams DC or is he going to be the guy he became? You know, obviously you don't know. Time will tell. But as a player, you got to be like, oh man, are we actually going to be set up for success here?
Well, I mean, and only time will tell. But do players really think that? Do they go that deep?
Some of them do. It depends on the player. It depends on a lot of things. But like if you're a real avid film watcher, like I watched a lot of film, right? I liked knowing what I was getting into. So if that's the case, you do have some ideas about coaches, right? Because then you're like, okay, well, you start to look at what this coach might like to call on a certain down or whatever. And then if you have one that is routinely getting beat and then they're going to come over to another team, so, if it's coming to your team, you're like, oh, okay, well, I mean, I hope there's some evolution in this, right? Because from the tape that I've been watching and preparing for and all of that, you may not be super excited about it. Now, that being said, I don't know how many of those players will be watching tape on the Chargers because they won't see them very often. But
Right. But along those same lines, I can't imagine that, um, you want to be the guy in the room that says, "Hey, I don't like this coach already." You know what I mean?
No,
I'm going
I
to
mean
start to.
you definitely see what it is, right? Like you're gonna, but in your mind you might be like, here's hoping, right? Like you're not going to spread it around. You're not going to create a cancer before a guy gets in the room, but you may have some predisposition in your own mind on this may not be the best.
Well, and I think about it the same way, like even with Vic Fangio. You know, I mean, it's like it's all right. So we've been running this defense, and the only thing difference between really what we were running before and what he runs is that he's the one.
Yeah, he
So
created it
is
for
it
sure.
does that mean that he's just better suited for the personnel that you need for this? And that's the difference, or is it the same? You know what I mean? Like, I know that, when Buddy Ryan ran a defense, he created a number of defenses, and you know what? Other people tried to run it. Thing
Yeah,
was, is that they couldn't run it well.
sure.
That
Well,
4-6 defense was a great defense for a little while. It was innovative at the time.
yeah. Well, if you're the one that created it, you're going to think of wrinkles you can run from it that someone that's just adopting it may not. Um, it's just part of it, right? Because I mean, you're gonna because you created, you're gonna know every in and out that you can potentially use it with. Whereas if you're just adopting it, you're gonna adopt the platform. You're gonna see some of the wrinkles that are available, but you're not necessarily gonna know all of them, right? Now you may figure them out, but you may not know them right off. Whereas if you're creating it, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this and this, and I can completely disguise and change some things around given the same look. Whereas if you're just adopting it, you may not think it that far through. So do I think it's an upgrade even within the same defense? Yeah, I mean, I probably, right. Just because there's going to be a little more options than what you currently had. But do I think it's going to be leaps and bounds different? No. I mean, it's the same program.
Well, the difference being is that, you know, I, he runs like a 3-4 in comparison to a 4-3, which is what the Eagles have been doing
Yeah.
nonstop. So there is going to be some difference. And then he also likes to run the wide nine. Wide nine has been known in Philadelphia for a lot of different things. And when they ran it well, it was actually probably one of the biggest differences between last year and this year. The wide nine was not used this year, and they didn't get any pressure.
Yeah.
So when you were using the wide nine, yeah, they were getting pressure. They got the most sacks in the league last year, almost of all time.
Yep.
And this year, we didn't get anywhere near that. In fact, I think we were 50 short of our mark from last year.
Oh, okay.
So I may have even been, it may have been less than that, but I thought it was somewhere in that 50 range. And, so it's going to come back again this year, but it's going to be running a 3-4, which again, that forces you to have linebackers.
It does. It's why the Seahawks haven't been that great. Is their linebacking core hasn't been amazing. You don't have the pressure up the middle because you have fewer linemen, and they got ran on and picked apart through the middle because they couldn't hang with receivers. So yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the 4-3, or I mean the 3-4. I like a 4-3 set, but you got to have dynamic linebackers if you're going to run a 3-4.
Well, I agree. And that's the one thing that the Eagles have really struggled to do. So I am looking forward to seeing what it looks like by having real linebackers. And
Yeah,
ultimately, like I said, if you're not going to invest the money in the linebackers, that means you have to start to dedicate actual resources in the draft. So you could actually get second round talent and put him in there and have him sign him for 3 years and then start looking for second round talent in 2 years so that you could start to put that person in there and start that situation. If you don't want to invest the money,
mhm.
then you absolutely have to invest other resources to get to what you need to get to. And I don't know
Yeah.
that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when teams want to run a 3-4 and then not spend money on a linebacker. It's like, what are you doing? Those are the hallmark of your defense now. I mean, yeah, I don't know. That one's always a head scratcher to me. Like if you're running a 4-3 and you're not spending top dollar on all your linebackers, yeah, I mean, okay, you probably have one guy that's a moneymaker and the other two are kind of fill-in dudes, but you got a couple of nice edge rushers and a good secondary. You can make that work. If you're running a 3-4, man, you need some real dudes in the middle of the field.
Right. Exactly. Or else you're going to have serious problems. Everybody.
Oh, yeah, they're going to run on you. I mean, plain and simple.
Right. So, we'll see. I mean, obviously, this goes against a little bit of the philosophy that the Eagles have had. It's been a long time since somebody's come in here and run a 3-4 defense. Even when the last one who said that he ran a 3-4 defense actually ran a hybrid 3-4-4-3. So it was not quite the same because, as we're told, we don't have the right personnel for a 3-4 defense. Here we do actually have the right personnel for a 3-4 defense and was running a 4-3. So it's, where I see that, Hassan Reddick is really an outside linebacker. He's not a defensive end. Same thing with Smith. Smith is a linebacker. He's not big enough to be a defensive end. Defensive end is, when I think of defensive ends, I think of Brandon Graham. I think those are the types of size of guys. And Brandon Graham's even a little bit on the small side. I think of TJ Watt. I think of all of those guys. Bosa. Those guys have the size to be. And we have a McLovin sighting.
Yeah.
But that's what I see. I don't see. I feel that the Eagles right now have girth in the middle, but not on the ends. The ends are supposed to be fast. They're supposed to be fast, and that's why Nolan Smith didn't see the field a lot this year, was because he wasn't big enough and he wasn't fast enough to be able to get off the block. That's the one thing Reddick was able to do as a wide 9. Once you moved him in, they got his hands on him too much, and he wasn't able to get out of it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it weirdly, that's kind of how Seattle became a 3-4 instead of a 4-3, is they pick up Jamal Adams. And although on a stat sheet, he's listed as a safety, he's essentially an outside linebacker. And, they kind of use him in that hybrid rover type role. But, his being most effective is rushing, right? Like he's going after the quarterback. That's when he's effective, because he's not good in coverage. He's not particularly great in, run stopping. I mean, he's essentially outside linebacker, D-end type of role, despite, again, being a safety on a stat sheet. Now he's not big enough for that. And, part of the reason why he gets hurt all the time. But, I have to imagine that's what created that shift from a 4-3 to a 3-4, because they essentially want to use him as a blitzing linebacker, essentially.
I think it also helps out with the running quarterback styles of like Lamar Jackson and Allen and such. The quicker they are, the more you have, left. It's easier to keep, because a lot of times those quarterbacks will run up the middle, like Lamar. He'll take a quick one up the middle, and you need that force set to really kind of at least try to contain him, right? More than the 4-3 where you're a little bit more limited.
Well, and the thing that's funny is that Jamal Adams isn't great at spying either. Like that, if you have a spy out there, that's going to be Wagner. So, it's funny because as athletic as the guy is, there's a lot of holes in his game. So I don't know. I mean, that's a guy I'm really curious what we're doing with this next year, because he does have kind of a big cap hit, but he's also kind of not available most of the time. So do you take the cap hit and just move on? Because he's on the field the same amount of time.
Right. I remember when you guys signed Adams from the Jets, because at one point, he really was considering even signing with Dallas. And then, of course, he wound up going with you guys. And I'm kind of glad he did, honestly, at this point. And I think kind of goes back to our $19 million cap. And if we had him, God knows how much higher that cap would have been,
Oh God,
So,
yeah. Oh, there's no way you could have afforded him.
and I don't know how much better he would have made us, truthfully, with all the money that he was commanding.
I don't think he would have been a great fit for you, honestly.
Right.
I don't think he would have fit your scheme particularly well.
Right.
I mean, you really have to kind of adjust your defense to scheme for his skill set, because he doesn't really. Yeah, I mean, probably Rob. Yeah, I mean, his skill set you have to plan for. He doesn't really fit into one, right?
Right.
You know, it was something that you saw with Earl Thomas, right? He worked great in the Seattle defense. When he went to the Ravens. Hey,
somebody's there. Somebody's knocking.
But you know, when you watched Earl Thomas move on to the Ravens, he wasn't particularly great because he did what he does well. He didn't really adapt to what the Ravens needed him to do. So you run into that same problem with Jamal Adams. Like, he does what he does well, but that's kind of it.
Got you. Well, I mean, but he was somebody who could disrupt. So,
and he still can be that guy when he's on the field. He plays hard, and I mean, he can disrupt plays. He makes tackles, but we
let the dogs out.
We need a fourth panel in here.
There we go. Back again. I'd say it's never a dull moment when we get McLovin here, and
absolutely,
you know,
might as well do the top of the hour, man.
We're right exactly. Exactly. So I tell you what, let's do that. Let's do our station identification, and we'll make sure that all the dogs are put away, the cats set up, and all this other stuff. So we'll be back in
all
just
the dogs
a few
put away.
moments.
McLovin's not going to be on the show. What are we doing?
Exactly.
He has been sequestered.
I'm sure we'll hear from him later. He obviously was not happy that the Cowboys did not get that player. He wanted Adams really badly, and he wanted that to be known. So we will talk about that at the second part of this show. So stay tuned for the second hour of Coast to Coast. I mean, you can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Supporting the needs of our veterans. That's the goal of all of us at Team AmVets. Like Mitch, Carlos, and Kevin from our Welcome Home team that brings furniture to our vets.
We are Team AmVets.
Or Linda from our thrift stores who brings you great bargains every day.
I am Team AmVets.
And John, who picks up your thrift store donations that support California veterans programs.
I am Team AmVets.
Visit our website or a Team AmVets thrift store to donate or shop today.
Join the team!
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
And welcome back to the second hour of Coast to Coast, where we let the dogs out and the cats fly all over the place here.
And it's just because he had to say that, and Blue just didn't like it. Yeah, both irritates Blue for some reason. I don't know what it is, but both irritates Blue.
There you have it. So, anyways, there is a couple of games that is happening this weekend on
Yes, there
Sunday.
are.
And we should start to talk about them because I feel that they actually deserve a few minutes of actual conversation rather than us just saying at the last 5 minutes, this one wins, this one wins. First game on Sunday, the Kansas City Chiefs in their fifth consecutive AFC Championship game going up against the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are a 4-point favorite, and a over under is 44 and a half. I think the Ravens is the first time the Ravens have held the AFC Championship game since 2012. Was that it?
Jesus. This sounds right.
Did they host
I
it?
do know they held it or hosted it.
Yeah, I didn't think they hosted it. I could be wrong.
Let's see. It doesn't tell me actually. So they have met one time in the wild card rounds, but never against each other. No, it was in New England.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't think they hosted the, yeah.
So, I mean, this is probably since 2006? Was that when they won? With Flacco? Or no, with Dilfer.
I'm pretty sure that was Dilfer.
Well,
yeah, Dilfer won in 2000. I don't know, 6 or 7. Okay. Anyways, we could have everybody find out for us. They could tell us. That's why we have some of the smartest people watching our show than any other show out there. So they will let us know. Anyways, some big news from the Ravens. Obviously, Andrews is going to return to this game. He's going to be back for this game specific. They activated him from injured reserve today, and he missed the last 6 regular season games, and of course the game against the Texans. He had this year 45 catches for 544 yards and 6 touchdowns before he got hurt. And he's been Lamar Jackson's favorite target, especially on third down.
By the way, 1970.
71.
1970 is the last time the AFC game was at Baltimore, Maryland, and that's back when they were the Baltimore Colts.
Wow.
Right.
Just for tracking.
The Ravens were not there.
They were not. No. So the Ravens, in that case, the Ravens have never hosted it.
They have never hosted it, and like I said, the one time that these two teams have played in the playoffs, the Ravens romped them 30-7 in Kansas City. They went to Kansas City and smacked them around. But I think that was even before Andy Reid. That was in 2011. So Andy Reid didn't get there until 2013. So not even sure who was the coach back then. It wasn't Marty Schottenheimer.
What was that guy's name? Was it?
Wasn't Schottenheimer? Not Marty? I mean, that might have been way far back.
Oh, I'm about to say that is a hot minute back.
But anyways, that's why we could have all our people Google that. We don't have to find that out right now. But let's talk about this game a little bit. Obviously, the Chiefs have been here. The Ravens, they were slated to get there 2 years ago and didn't. Lamar Jackson, fell short. And ultimately, now they're back here again. Lamar Jackson, has threatened to win a Super Bowl for this franchise, back when he got drafted. and this is going to be his first opportunity to really make it occur. Their head coach is probably one of the longest tenured head coaches in the league right now. I mean, he's been there forever. And because he's won. I mean, I guess what was it? It was in 2006. It was who was the coach of the Ravens back then? So Harbaugh's only got one against.
It was a guy before Harbaugh. It's the same guy that they won they won the Super Bowl with.
Not Wycheck.
Nah,
I thought his name began with a B too.
it does start with a B.
Yeah, we're bad. Our memories, this is where the age is catching up with us today.
Clearly, this is a great Friday.
Bueller, God, what's that guy's name? I can see his face too. That's crazy.
Me too. Me too. In fact, I feel like that he was the coach of. Was he the coach of Cleveland for a little while? I guess he moved with the team.
Brian Billick.
Billick. Yo, you got it just a hair sicker than I did.
Yeah, Brian
Billick. Brian Billick. Yep.
So Billick won the first Super Bowl with them, and then it was Harbaugh winning it. And like I said, Harbaugh's been with them for a hot minute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess it's maybe his 13th year. The only other coach who's been there, Coach Reed has been since 2008.
Harbaugh.
And they won it in 2006, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2008, he took over. And so, that's 15 years now. 16 years. It's a long time to be with a franchise. So.
And I think Ray Lewis was with both of those coaches. Wasn't he with Billick and Harbaugh? He stretched both of those guys.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting. The teams short of Cleveland, even Cincinnati, they keep coaches.
They do.
They do not turn coaches over and over. That's obviously Pittsburgh's have 4 coaches for
How about that?
years.
Pittsburgh same way. Yeah.
Baltimore,
they've had 3 coaches since the 70s. Literally.
Yeah, they had Chuck Noll, they had Cowher,
and then it was Cowher, and now Tomlin.
Yep. Right. So that's it. 3 coaches since that, and before that was Knox, right?
Oh God! Don't get me before. No, I was born in 72.
4 coaches. 4 coaches for literally 60 years.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So, then you think of Cleveland before this Browns team, because they've had a lot of the coaching carousel has been turning and turning and turning. Baltimore, Cleveland kept the same coach for a long time. They didn't get rid of coaches over and over and over again. So, and when Cleveland became Baltimore, they did the same thing. Obviously, it was Billick, and now it's Harbaugh. And it's interesting. It's interesting that the longevity remains. So they kind of like,
right? If you consistently win, it's easier to keep your job.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like Harbaugh is slated to go anywhere anytime soon. So I got to imagine, he's going to be there for a long, long time.
And I like that Harbaugh. Obviously he was the special teams coordinator for the Eagles before he got taken, and
right.
And I was really excited to see him get that head coaching job in that position. Ultimately, he was able to beat his brother, which everybody was real happy about, because it felt like Philly won that one because he was one of our own, and he was the special teams coordinator here, and we all don't like Jim Harbaugh, but he's going up against Andy Reid now. So at one point, these 2 guys were on the same staff. Harbaugh is part of the Andy Reid tree.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see how this is going to go. This is the first playoff meeting between these 2 coaches.
Should be interesting, huh? That's a good storyline, right, in and of itself.
I'm looking forward to this game. Because it's not like you can count out KC, right? Even though it's not one of their better teams, they're in this game. And They've been here a bunch of times. So it's going to be a fun watch. It's going to be fun. I do think the Ravens take this win, but KC's not going to lay down for them.
No.
Oh, hell no. They're definitely not laying down.
So that being said, obviously there's going to be when you think of trying to stop the Chiefs, who is it that you have to target? Are you just targeting Kelsey?
You got to take Kelsey out of it, because that's certainly a security
blanket.
Right. No one else can catch the ball.
Well, that's not true, though. Rice has come up big and had bigger games even when Kelsey had the smaller games. So I don't necessarily think that's true now. I mean, I think Rice really has evolved and come into his own over the last few weeks, especially this playoffs he's come out. So I don't think just taking out necessarily Kelsey is going to be the end-all, be-all, because I think Rice can step up. I still think Hardeman can get you a third-down possession catch or two here and there. And then I'm not going to rule out Pacheco. I still think really the key for me with Kansas City is just getting pressure on Mahomes. That's the biggest thing.
Well,
and making him uncomfortable.
It's not that they're trash. Like, I wasn't saying that. They're
no, I understand.
They're in the championship game. Like,
right. No, absolutely.
Football. But you also got to look at the fact that the Ravens gave up the least amount of points in the league, right? So it's not like their defense is terrible. They got one of the best defenses out there.
Right.
And Kelsey is, when things get tough, he's the guy. Like, he's the target. When they do get home, he's that dump off guy. Like, that's the guy they're trying to get. I would take Kelsey out and then dare the rest of them to beat you, because Kelsey is that security blanket that is money every time. And I mean, all the guys are going to eat. Like, they're top flight guys. But if you got to take a guy out, you take Kelsey out, because he's also the go-to guy when you're in the red zone. Like, he's the guy he wants to get the ball to, because he's a sure-handed guy typically. So you get him out of there, and then you dare him to get the rest of them.
What I'm more worried about is if Baltimore comes out and does a repeat of the first half against the Texans, against the Chiefs, and thinking that they can just come back in that second half and do what they want and think they get the win, right? I think they cannot afford that slow start against KC like they did against Houston and just think they're going to come back and take it away from them.
Yeah, I think some of that was the rust of having a week off.
I understand that. Yeah, totally.
So I don't think they're going to come out flat like that. Like, this is a game that even if you were thinking maybe they were looking past the Texans, no one's looking past KC. Like, you're going to come out ready for this game.
Yeah, you are one game away from the Super Bowl. You aren't taking this game lightly in any stretch of the imagination.
Not at all.
I feel that this game potentially has the biggest chance to become a monster blowout. More so than the Super Bowl, where it just seems like one team is so much better or so much more ready than the other. This is the game where I feel the Ravens could embarrass the Chiefs. I don't believe that the Chiefs can embarrass the Ravens. I think it could only go that one way. Do I think it's going to be like that? No, I think that it's going to be much closer. It's like, and that's ultimately what'll happen is that if it starts to get way too out of hand, they're just going to turn the lights off on half the stadium, and ultimately they'll take 30 minutes of break, and everybody will start getting cold and wet because it's supposed to rain a little bit, and then they get the lights back on, and all of a sudden the other team will start to come back a little bit. So
I wonder where we've seen that before.
I don't know. The biggest thing that I've noticed when you start checking the statistics of one and the other is the turnover differential. The Chiefs are a -11 and the Ravens are a +12. And that's a monster difference. A monster difference. I feel that it's going to get won by the turnovers. Like, ultimately it's going to remain close. I feel that different than like when you were saying that they like to play with their food a little bit. I don't think it's a playing with their food a little bit. I don't look at it that way. I look at it as they wear you down, and then you're exhausted, and then they take advantage. So I don't see like, oh, bap 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 bap, like a cat playing with a mouse before it pounces on it. I look at this as um, just like a puncher punching your arm all the time. By the time that the third quarter comes, your arm is so tired from being punched, you can't block anymore, and that's when they start punching, yeah, punching you in the face. So I kind of feel that that's the way the Ravens go about things, and the Chiefs are going to have to take those punches and keep
Yep.
taking those punches into the fourth quarter. And I don't know that they have it like that. I think that that's going to be the hard part here, especially the defense. The defense is going to really rely on the defense more so than Mahomes.
And they do have those big linebackers that can wear you down as well, which is
So but as I think about this, I got the Ravens winning this game going away. We will see. I think it's. I have it. I'd like to think that it's an under, but I think that the Ravens are going to score points. I think it's going to be like 34, 37 points coming from the Ravens side, and that it's going to be like 10, 17 points for the Chiefs. That they are going to find like different. I think you're right with Rice that they are going to try to utilize Rice, but it's going to be Valdez Scantling that's going to take it. I know Pacheco's beat up a little bit. You know what I mean? I think that they're not going to be able to rely on him as much, and ultimately their other running back, Alaire,
Edwards-Helaire.
is
Yeah.
not going to be able to do the same things that Pacheco can do.
Yeah.
And ultimately, it's going to, when you have to rely on Edwards-Helaire, he likes to put the ball on the ground. And if it's going to rain a little bit, you're going to see a couple of those happen. And that's the killer of drives. That is the absolute killer of drives. When you've kept the ball for 4 minutes and you're driving down the field and you're in the red zone and you put the ball on the carpet, bam.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. But for some reason, I still hear that faint voice of Kelsey in the background saying, "I told you not to disrespect us, you jabroni." I mean, I do. And I know that sounds crazy, but he really is, and that team really is, and they do thrive on that people disrespect them. And I feel like when people disrespect them, it just brings that much more out of the Kansas City Chiefs. It really does, and that's kind of. My heart says, yeah, or my brain says, yeah, man, this is Ravens. They're going to take this game. But my heart and what I've seen in the past from this Chiefs team, it kind of keeps me from going all the way in on the Chiefs. I mean, on the Ravens,
Yeah. No, I mean, and that's why I said they've been here before, right? Like it's 5 consecutive that they've been in this game. A lot of the key guys on this have been around. So,
right.
I mean, they're not afraid of the moment. And I don't think it's going to matter. This is one where the Ravens are just the better team. Like they just have more pieces.
Right.
So,
and I don't feel like this is the same mentality in this Chiefs team as we've seen in past, right? And I don't know if that's because Eric Bieniemy is not there. Maybe that's I don't know, but or the Taylor Swift effect. It just the feel. No, seriously, the feel of the team just doesn't feel like it's felt in past. So I'm still thinking the Ravens, and I think the Pags says, I mean, it could be a blowout. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout. I'm not seeing a blowout. I think the Chiefs are too competitive for a blowout, but I do see the Ravens taking the game, though, especially in their hometown.
I take the Ravens and I take the points. I'm going to go with the over, though. I think there are going to be some points in this game, but I'm going to take the Ravens to cover.
Kelsey and Taylor break up. Oh, and Jason ain't jumping out of no balcony. I'll tell you that.
That was
I don't see that happening. Actually, I see that that Travis and Taylor are going to have a kid. They're going to have a baby.
Okay.
Mark my words.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
If you're going to have a silver spoon child, that's going to be it's gold spoon. That's going to be a gold spoon.
Might even be platinum at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I feel like that's this is very, very Tom Brady-esque. You know what I mean? A little bit. as I'm trying to talk about somebody else's love life, rather than, I maybe I may even way off on that. Maybe I have no idea. But I I do kind of see the potential of a blowout here. I really do. And the reason why I kind of see the blowout is because I just see the Ravens. You're right. Giving the full respect. You have our full attention.
Yep.
There's no chance that you are going to win this game. And we are going to beat you in every facet of this game. And
Yep.
I feel that they're going to be really ready for that because they want this Super Bowl. They want it.
Yep.
They are hungry, hungry, hungry. And as hungry as the Chiefs can even seem to be, I don't think that they are hungry enough.
No, you can be hungry and you can be starving. And
Yeah.
this Ravens team is starving. Like,
Yes.
they are going to find a way to get there. Plus, this is where, like, Rob in the comments here was saying that you think that KC is going to score some garbage time points. I actually don't think the Ravens are going to give them the opportunity because of how San Fran came back in that game in the Super Bowl they were in. I don't think they take their foot off the gas. This may be one, if they get the opportunity to run it up, they will, because you're not going to give Mahomes the opportunity to get in a rhythm. Like, you're not going to, if you do, you deserve to lose.
Right.
If I get up on Mahomes, I'm keeping my foot on the gas. I'm using the defense that's got me there. I'm using the offense that got me there. If somehow you climb back in, kudos to you. But I'm not going to give you, the prevent defense that now gets you in a rhythm because now I'm giving you 15-yard passes all down the field. Not doing it. Like, if you can get up on him, you keep your foot on the gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's what's going to propel them into the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's like ultimately, I feel that they, on as much as I love, and we'll talk about the second game in a minute, but it's going to be tough to beat the Ravens and stop them from winning the Super Bowl. It's like everybody thought initially it was going to be the Eagles and the 49ers, and either one of them was going to be the one that wins it. Ultimately, I think that the Ravens are an unstoppable force, and you're going to have some unique stuff occur, to stop them, from winning this.
Especially if you think back to when the Ravens and the Niners met earlier in the year. The Niners were healthy when they met. Like, they had everybody, and they got worked in that game.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, and I think that at that time, obviously leading up to that game, the Niners were the team.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were the team. So, I think that even in this circumstance here, you understand and have a respect that the Chiefs have been in this position for the last 5 years, but ultimately they just don't have the strength that they've had in previous years. So,
yeah,
I have the Ravens winning this game, like they said, 38 to 17, maybe 38 to 13, something almost outlandish. Like, it's going to look like that score says, that they're just going to get romped.
See, I think it's going to be a little closer. I think it's going to be like a 10-point game, and I'm figuring somewhere in the 27-17 kind of thing. And the only reason I say that is KC does have a solid defense.
They do, but I think that's where they're going to have the problems with the turnovers.
Obviously, if there's turnovers, that changes the dynamic a ton.
So
yeah, I'm more right with Bo. I think it's going to be about a 10-point differential between the two teams. I really do. I think it's going to be close. I don't think if Pat does lose, he's not going to get blown out. I mean, there's just too much competitiveness in that kid, and between him and the competitiveness of Kelsey and company. And Andy Reid is a good coach at having his guys prepared, and I don't think he's going to let them go unprepared like that.
Well, and that's and I hear you saying that, but I just he can't do it on his own.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the problem. Like he's going to have to kind of do it on his own. They are going to give him a lot of pressure. They're going to probably blitz, I want to say about 60% of the time, because they're good on man coverage. And ultimately, if you're disrupting the timing plays, which is really what they have to do, you just, bang him at the line, you disrupt the timing, and then he's not going to be able to get that ball out fast enough. And that's when you're going to start to see tipped balls and interceptions. Not that he's like I almost see 2 interceptions by Pat Mahomes, not because he threw to the other player, but because they can't get their hands on the ball the right way, and because they're good at dropping the balls or balls going through their hands, it's going to be deflections and interceptions.
Now that definitely could be a thing, and of course, you might extend the lead a little bit further because Tucker is going to hit from 58. You basically have to get off the logo, and he can make it.
Yeah.
Which is another fascinating player for as long as he's been in the league, and the fact that he really hasn't lost anything off that leg is just insane to me.
It's amazing,
But they're saying that Pacheco is going to play. I know that he's questionable with that toe injury, but I'm not sure. I am not sure if he's going to, if he is playing, is he going to be the guy who's going to be able to make the difference here in this game? So we'll see. We will see. It's going to be very interesting. That's the 3:00 game. Chiefs and Ravens. The weather is supposed to be a little bit drizzly. It's not going to be super cold, but it is going to be drizzly.
I love games like that. Those are the best games because it really does. I love it when the X factor is rain, because then you find out who is the best. I don't know. It takes a lot, to compete in the rain like that, or the snow. If you're Buffalo, New England, I thought that was a great game. Panics and oh wow, good work. Huh? That's a big statement.
I assume Rob is from the Seattle area, so he understands exactly how worked Penix was.
He is. Yep.
But I don't think it's going to be like Penix, because unlike Penix, Mahomes can actually run, and Mahomes can actually scramble, and Mahomes can actually throw on the fly.
He is a better athlete in that way.
I mean, come on.
There's no doubt.
That statement, hey, it sounds cool when you say it, but then when you analyze it for what you really is, really, no offense, but it's kind of moronic, because you're talking about two completely different athletes. It is. You're talking about a guy who can run versus a guy who has 2 bad knees and can barely get up and down the stairs. Come on.
Hey, Chris, no offense to that, but that is not major news to me. I have been listening to Tiesto for the last 2 years as a Phillies fan, and you know what? I ain't interested. I could care less. A DJ in the Super Bowl is not major news at all. Okay? Just want to make sure that we have that on the same page. Tiesto is the one that played the song. He was the DJ for that for the Phillies song. Dancing in the corner, or whatever, dancing on my own, whatever it is. I can't stand the song anymore. I'm so glad the Phillies have killed it. It's dead. That song is dead, dead. So,
hey, question before you get to that second game, did you guys? I don't know if you guys talked. I put it in the chat. I don't know if you guys talked about it, man. But I thought it was interesting that last year, or the previous, they were talking about we're not hiring enough minority coaches, and then this year we 4 out of 6 of the hirings were actually minorities. I thought that was a rather interesting thought.
I saw your post about this, or your text to this, and we did not address this. And I figured this was something that we could bring back up again after like Monday or Tuesday of next week. Let's see how many of the other coaches come.
How they falls? Yeah.
And see how things shake out in a total. But yeah, 4 out of 6 is a good number of that. I feel like that there are so many great candidates anymore for coaches, or good candidates for coaches, and that if you've been a coach before and it didn't work out, it may be time for somebody else to give it a shot. So I like the fact that they are more diverse in their thinking. The owners are more diverse in their thinking this time around. But I don't look at, I could care less about the color of their skin.
Oh, I could care less too.
They're
But
winners
I
are
don't, but that
winners.
just seems like to be such a huge topic over the last 5-10 years. It seems like it's been such a. I mean, come on, people been. You saw all the craziness that's gone on over it. I mean, NFL was almost damn near shut down because of all of the discontent, let's just say, about it.
Yeah.
Well, again, I know the Rooney Rule is out there still, and it kind of forces the hand a little bit, and it's like I want the right people hired for the right jobs. And if you have a really strong, football acumen, then you can be a coach in this league. And I could care less if you are the color of your skin, if you are Asian, if you are Australian, if you are Antarctican. You know what I mean?
Out there
I
coaching.
want to see the Antarctican. If you ever find one of those cats,
Hey,
I want to see him.
Penguins out there coaching.
Hey, listen,
Do this.
that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, so I look at it as a much less of a deal, but you're right. It is worth spending some time on it. But I feel like that right now we should focus on the games and bring this back up again when we have 2 weeks waste on figuring out how
When
the
the
Cowboys
only,
have not made it to another Super Bowl.
when the only notable thing is a flag football game that is.
Hey, I wouldn't even want to depress you like that, Pat. Let's keep it happy, man. Let's talk about how I don't know anything. Sunshines and some rainbows.
Static. You haven't been there.
Hey, look, you said which one about Dallas. I'd rather be in Dallas than Seattle. Seattle's a very depressing. Do you even have sun out there?
Yeah.
I need vitamin D, man.
It visits us a few months a year.
So
I mean, look at a guy like Pags. Pags couldn't do it. Look how fair skinned he is. He might survive out there in Seattle real well.
Fair skins.
Hey,
Are you kidding me? I am
can't see a
Italian.
tan. Do you ever
I am
tan?
Italian. I am as olive as they come.
Yeah, I was going to say it's olive at that point.
Is it olive? Okay, I'll give him olive. All right.
Yeah, trust me, I ain't fair skinned at all. So, anyways, game number 2 at 6:30. The Detroit Lions fly all the way to Santa Clara.
Yep.
Not even San Francisco, Santa Clara, to go and take on the San Francisco 49ers.
Hey, and if you happen to be here in the Seattle area, I am going to watch this one at Wild Wings. So if you're here, come hang out, have a beer with us. We'll be at Wild Wings in Linwood. Come hang out.
In Linwood.
How much are you getting paid to say that? Just tell me. Are they cutting you a paycheck for that? Because I need at least a third.
No, they
have to be a third.
They should. But and if we could do it right, if you could have that Wild Wings remote, make this go into overtime and be awesome, I'd be about it.
Perfect. Let's do it. In fact, I will not be at Wild Wings. I will likely be in my living room.
Well, you're cheating because you have a bar downstairs.
I'm about to say that.
If I had a bar downstairs, I would do that exact same thing.
Well, that's why I don't like to drive after I've been drinking. So
I'll tell you, man, you really do have the most strategic place to live, literally.
Right now,
it's good.
Yeah, it's great, except when you have kids that are under 21.
Well, that's true. But that happens. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'd rather live above a bar or live above a grocery store. I love grocery stores.
So the thing that's funny is when I was living in Mexico, directly underneath, I had a after hours bar. So it was open from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then next door to it was this little mini mart.
Now, see, that's a good combo.
Oh, it was great. It was great. The only thing I got to say was really terrible about it is because it went all night. If you woke up at like 2 a.m. and were hungry, like they made tacos downstairs. And so that smell would come in. And if you're hungry and you got pastor tacos wafting into your house, man, it makes you way hungrier. So it's really hard to be like, do I walk downstairs and get some tacos? Like, I kind of want some tacos now.
Oh, I can see that. I'm really surprised Pax hasn't become an alcoholic living above a bar, to be honest with you.
Well, you can't become one if you start that way.
Well, damn.
Hey, alcoholics have a problem drinking. I have no problem drinking whatsoever.
Right. Right. AA's for quitters.
Oh,
nobody likes a quitter.
That is not necessarily their views of this panel.
Exactly. So,
but when I was
that
down there,
being
I
said,
was a sports bar half a block away. So that's actually where I was going with
Well,
this.
here was the line, Bo. Here's the line. Look, here's you, Bo. Now you're over here, Bo. I need you back over here. Bo, come back over here.
No, definitely not. Definitely
Bo,
not.
come back over here.
Lines are made to be crossed. That's why they put them there. They're like, this is the finish line, and you're supposed to cross finish lines.
Bo, you were one of them kids if I'd have been your daddy, I'd have had one of them little leashes from your wrist to my wrist.
Pretty much.
I told him not to go across the line. I told him.
So, anyways, to finish and get back to talking about the game, since this
is a sports show
that we actually should probably all care about more than anything else because we are all part of the NFC. The Detroit Lions are a 7.5-point dog, and the over/under in this one is 51.5. Now, interestingly enough, of course, they did not put the same type of stuff on this one to be able to see all the statistics and what have you. But this is two prolific offenses going up against each other, obviously. The offenses, the 49ers are second in offense. The Lions are third in offense. Passing yards, San Francisco's fourth. The Lions are second. Rushing yards, San Francisco's third. The Lions are fifth. Points, San Francisco's third. The Lions are fifth. Third down conversion is both of them over 40%, 47.5 for the 49ers, 41.5 versus for the Lions.
So the biggest stat difference there is the defensive points per game. Because that goes from 17.5 for the Niners to 23.2 for the Lions. So the Lions give up some points. That'll be the thing to really watch. Can that Lions secondary get some stops?
Well, and there's actually a lot bigger numbers on that. Like total yards that the defense gives up is 357 for the Lions, 322 for San Francisco, which doesn't sound like it's a big thing here, but it's 7th in comparison to 20th. The passing game against the Lions is 27th in the league. Interestingly enough, though, they can get off on third down, and they got only a 37.1, which is tied for 10th, where the 49ers are close to 41%. You could get third down conversions on them. So it's interesting to see that. Now, obviously, it didn't talk about turnovers. Jared Goff has thrown 12 interceptions to Brock Purdy's 11. They have similar yards. Brock Purdy, however, does not throw a long ball very well. Most of the yards that he has gotten in, of the 4,300 are yaks. They are yaks. So, and that's the good thing about having a Brandon Ayuk or having a, Deebo Samuel or even a Christian McCaffrey,
right?
Where he ran for 1,500 yards. But how much did he? Let me see if I can see.
Even Kittle should. I'm surprised Kittle hasn't been. Well, I mean, he has, but I would like to see more use out of Kittle. I don't know that Purdy necessarily uses him enough as he does the rest of his receivers.
I mean, let's go. He scored 21 touchdowns this year. CMC. He had 67 receptions for 564 yards, which equals about 8 yards a catch, and then he rushed 272 times for 1,459 yards and 14 touchdowns. He's lost 2 fumbles, and that was that. So,
what does it say about time of possession between both of those teams? Does it say who has, if it's close or if it's?
So I don't see that on the stats that I have in front of me.
Yeah, I don't have that one either.
Because to me, that's a huge stat too. I mean, if you can control the clock, and if they could keep San Fran off the field, that would be huge. Through the run game, because I like their run game, but they have between Gibbs and Montgomery, which could be used for clock management to keep them off the field.
They have to do very similar to what the Packers did. The Packers' problem was they kicked field goals. They need to score touchdowns. You need to get in the end zone. The one thing that they do have that the Packers did not really have is they have St. Brown, and St. Brown can get open. He just has a way of being able to run these routes where he's able to get open, and Goff's able to get him the ball. And if he has 12 receptions for over 120 yards, if he's doing somewhere around that 10-yard per reception, the Lions are going to make this a really, really tough game.
Absolutely.
So they got to get in the end zone, though. You cannot take 3. You have to take 7 points, especially on your first drive. Do not walk away. I don't care if San Francisco goes 3 and out and you get it and you want to get points on the board, so you want to get the lead. You got to get 7 in that first drive. Yep. Make Brock nervous. Yep. You have to make them nervous. He obviously, like I said, they gritted out that last win against the Packers. They were able to pull it out, and it was all grit that won them that game. This is a game I feel that if you try to if you have to have San Francisco grit this win out, they are going to fall short.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. For Goff, like, the moment's not going to be too big. He's played in a Super Bowl before. He's been through these games. So, I mean, I'm not really worried about him coming up short in this game.
Did he win a national championship?
What, Goff?
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not sure either. I'm going to look that up real fast.
Well, you do that. I know I looked at Detroit, and they're averaging 30 minutes time of possession a game, and it looks like San Fran's at 29-41. So it's almost like a horse apiece. So, yeah, that should be interesting since they're both on the field about the same amount of time per game.
No. Goff played with California.
Oh, yeah, he ain't getting nothing.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, he did not win a national championship. Thank you very much. So, that being said, I with the points, I love the Lions here. I don't think San Francisco is not – this is going to be a much closer game. Yep. This is going to be tough for San Francisco. I know that their defense is better, than the Lions' defense.
For sure.
But as I watched that game last week, and ultimately I feel like Green Bay showed their immaturity when it came down to it at the end. And the Lions, I feel like, although they haven't been here before, I mean, Goff has, he said he has gotten over that hump. He has won, an NFC championship game.
Yep.
And, Brock hasn't, and ultimately they have been there a couple of times and haven't done it.
Yep.
Right.
So if you start to get behind, you could start to creep that in. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, guess what? Now what's your excuse there, 49ers?
Yep.
Yeah, you have your quarterback and you're losing.
Yep. Yeah,
right.
All of a sudden you're the Bills against Mahomes, right?
Right. We talked about, the 49ers defense, and it is a great defense with Chase Young additional to that. I'm curious to see how Aiden Hutchinson and how much he can disrupt Purdy. Also with Garner as you know how good of a cornerback he is, how well he'll do against the Ayuks or the Jaywan Jennings, of the league. That got the big deep ball from him. Like I said, Purdy doesn't throw a good deep ball, so I'm curious to see how. I think the secondary of Detroit and Aiden Hutchinson could be an issue for them.
possibly.
Yeah, it's
But-
funny how the secondary of Detroit can be a problem for both teams.
Hey, you know what I mean?
No, I mean, honestly, I think that's really the unit that is going to be is probably the unit I'm going to watch the most in this game. Is can they show up, right? Because they've been able to get scored on, give up a ton of yards. Can they clamp that down? Because if they can, Detroit can win this game. If you can blow the top off them, it's going to be a long afternoon. I think I still think the Lions keep it interesting in that scenario, even if they are able to stretch the field. I don't think that 7.5 is going to happen, but I take the Lions with the points. But if everybody's healthy, especially because on the Niners side, because Detroit does have a lot of guys that are on that injury list. Now,
the one thing I like about San Fran though is if Debo even comes up somewhat healthy and tolerable to pain with that shoulder that he has. The one thing I love about San Fran, which I always said it could be a defensive nightmare for any team, is the way that they're so interchangeable. They're so versatile between all their players, right? I mean, any player could be a running back, any player could be a wide receiver. You just don't know which one. There's so many gadget and trick plays that they can pull out of theirs. So it's going to be hard for them to read and contain all the different elements that San Fran, when healthy, can bring to the table.
Yeah.
I could possibly see this. And if I was a betting man, I would absolutely put some money. And it wasn't listed as of yet, so I don't know. But I would absolutely put some money on an anytime touchdown for Zach Ertz.
Oh, God,
Zach Ertz
is he allowed to? I was going to ask you guys that. I didn't know the rules on that. So now that they picked him up in the playoffs, he's allowed to play? He's eligible to play with them?
Absolutely.
Yes. So he was an unrestricted free agent once he got through, once he was dropped. So ultimately, anybody could pick him up. The last time this kind of occurred in a situation like this was with the Eagles, where they had to pick up a tight end before an NFC Championship game, and he actually caught a touchdown in that game and broke his foot.
Wow. Well, at least he went out over the bang.
That's what's great about showing up late to a group project, because even if you get it, if everyone gets an A, so do you, even though you didn't contribute. You showed up, hey.
Zach Ertz is a really good tight end, which, I think they really needed that as an insurance policy to Sam Porta, in case he went down, or to take some of the pressure off of Sam Porta. So,
that's exactly it.
I would absolutely take that bet. I would throw some pizza money on a Ertz anytime touchdown.
Yeah. Or some wing money.
For sure.
Whatever money they're giving you for doing those free commercials that you're doing on our show here, they should take that money.
They're not. I'm trying to get them to come.
Hey, Bo, just tell me the truth, man. Is that how they pay you, man? Does Wingstop say, "Hey, Bo, if you just say that word a few times on here, I'm going to give you all night free wings"? Bo, man,
if Wingstop make a little better wings, I would do that too.
But that being said, I actually have this game. I think the 49ers do pull this one out, and it's going to come down to the last time who's got the ball, and it's going to be a shame because it's going to be too close. It's going to be very upsetting to the fan base of Detroit. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. But I have this game 31-30 49ers.
Yeah.
The over and with the Lions, and it's going to be maybe a field goal at the end. I'd love it for it to be 30-28, and that means the Lions win that game. Because like I said, I would really be excited for the Lion fan base. That would be absolutely amazing.
Absolutely.
And it would be kind of apropos to have them, because they've been playing the most money for tickets in this playoffs that there's ever been. So to have them play in a Super Bowl that they're going to be gouging the prices of everything. So because they're going to be in Vegas, and it's going to be $18,000 for just a room for a night. to be able to stay in Vegas for that.
That is insane.
Yeah, for me, I'm going to go with the Lions to cover. But if I'm picking straight up, I'm taking the Niners here. Now in my pick'em, I'm not. In my pick'em, I'm taking the Lions. I want the Lions to win. So I'm taking them as the underdog. But if you were actually putting money on the straight up pick, you're going to take the Niners here.
Your mom's not upset with that. She's upset, Bo. You better change it.
Well, I mean, that's because she bets, with her heart instead of what the better football move is. So, because again, I want the Lions to win. I want that to happen. But if you were betting straight up, I would take the Niners to win. I think it's going to be like that 31-27 kind of win. But I would like it to fall the other direction.
Yeah, I see the Niners taking this win, but I like Pags over there. I really want the Lions to win for the fan base. I mean, these guys, they've been in purgatory since the 30s. I mean, or forever. So I mean, it's good to see them kind of. I mean, how many times have we watched them get close, and then fail? I mean, ever since the Barry Sanders era was there. So it'd be nice to see them be able to get one. So
Rob is exactly right. 49ers money line, Detroit points.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. Hey, it's because I'm trying to look out for the people watching this show. If they're putting their money on it, we need to give them good information.
So you're saying your mom has bad information. So your mom's wrong, Bo. Is that what you're saying? Oh, I can't wait to get that dinner table.
Yes, 100%.
But like I said, I think that there is some real money to be made on a Zach Ertz anytime touchdown.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that could possibly that would absolutely occur. And if he by chance scores 2 touchdowns, if he scores 2 touchdowns, the Lions win the game. Because I feel like beyond CMC, you have to pay attention to George Kittle. George Kittle is going to be the one who's going to be able to make the difference in this game. If San Francisco 49ers win this game, Kittle is going to be the reason. It's not going to be CMC. It's not going to be Ayuk or Debo. It's going to be George Kittle. And that's going to be the one weakness that the Lions are not going to be able to do.
Well, and they're going to have to figure out how to tackle, because that dude can make you miss. Well, at least she's not mad about it.
Yeah, Mama is not happy.
I don't know. I just want to be there at the dinner table, man.
And normally that would say Cowboys suck too, because I know Mama is definitely a Cowboy.
No. Anybody whose name is Feather Freebird, they're all about the Cowboys.
No,
you can't just pull that kind of name and then not be a Cowboys fan.
She is an avid Cowboys hater.
In fact, she would just she does not ride the bandwagon like you do there, McLovin. We understand. I tell you, and there's a lot of love for the Cowboys up there in Seattle, as we can see everybody kind of piling on now.
Yeah.
Say what? Waddle, I can't even take you seriously anymore after that Mahomes and Penix comparison. So I don't know what we're talking about. I'm more likely to go with Feather Freebird on this one.
Anyways, let me just.
Cases, they don't like the Cowboys, so.
That's why when we win a Super Bowl, I'm gonna be talking all kinds of mad crap.
No, you're not. We're both gonna be dead by then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna be talking in your grave.
Come back as a ghost and haunt everybody.
And just checking to see if there was any news on any new hirings that we maybe not found, and I don't see any.
Yeah,
no, I don't think so. Otherwise, mine would have lit up by now.
Yep.
And you know what? Here's a funny story that just came out 38 minutes ago. The NFL is confident in a great team maintaining the grass for Super Bowl.
What?
What?
I guess you guys didn't hear last year that everybody was slipping and sliding on the turf for the Super Bowl last year.
Oh, so that's where they're saying the turf is better. It won't be that issue, huh?
Yeah, that because they have the exact same type of turf, a turf that rolls out and rolls in and stuff like that. They get the grass going, and there we go.
I like how she says that. Cowboys
She's as
suck
free
too.
as a bird
Major.
now,
No,
and
no,
this
no. I'm
bird
gonna
will
say this.
never
Very,
change.
very few people use the word "too" correctly, and she used the word "too" correctly. So, congratulations, Feather Free Bird. It's good to see that you paid attention, like some people didn't in English.
Well, I mean, so to be fair, I don't know why you thought a name that has Freebird in it would be a Cowboys fan. Obviously, part of the.
I don't know. Freebird just sounds like you'd be a cowboy. Sounds like you'd be running in the wind on the back of a horse with a cowboy hat, living life in a total free lane. I don't know. But then it also sounds like a hippie at Woodstock. Do what you want to do with it.
Part of the bird gang. Here we go.
I know that she doesn't ride with any bandwagon guys from Houston that are Cowboys fans.
Well, I'm glad because my wife would be pissed and I'd be sleeping outside.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was doing. And this bird will never change. Leonard Skinner in the house. Leonard Skinner references happening. You get all of that on this show. He's not only animal references, but we get music references, football references. We have it all here on Coast to Coast.
We do love Leonard Skinner, though.
That,
We
ladies
do.
and gentlemen, is our show.
And on that notes, so listen, everybody, thank you, everybody, for hanging with us today. All the great comments, especially all those Cowboys comments. Yeah, they got one. I love that. Cowbugs suck. I love that one. The Cowbugs suck. I usually call them the Cow Turds. But
Okay, Feather Freebird, it's enough. I've just given you like 4 compliments. You can leave me alone now.
There we go. We got to put the mute. There it is. There's the mute. We knew it had to happen.
Absolutely.
So, but anyways, thank you to everybody who joined us this week. We'll be back next week to talk about the winners of this weekend and some of the losers too. Hopefully everybody has a great weekend. Enjoy the championship games, and we will see you next time on Coast to Coast. Hey, I'm sorry, Bo, do you have anything? I know that you have like 18 different podcasts that you're doing and Wild Wings.
So, yeah, exactly. So just coming up next, Hawk Talk. So if you're watching on Roku, hang out. And if you're watching on my channel, hang out for that as well.
So there you go.
And you can tune in about 20 minutes, and I'm going to show you 20 ways to pluck a bird.
And as the Cow Turds will do that, they'll fail at that too.
Yeah, pretty much.
So if you want to watch a bird just like peck his eyes out and stuff like that, because I think that's what's going to happen here as he's trying to pull a feather, that's going to be fun.
$20 on the birds.
Exactly.
Hey, last time I checked, we did carry the last win. Who won last? I think it was us.
When?
You did.
You lost to the Packers, so you did not win.
No, I'm talking about the Eagles.
Head to head. You beat us too. So
yeah. And if Jack would have kept that damn foot in bounds, we would have beat him twice.
Yeah, well, he couldn't.
I know.
Shame.
It is what it is.
Yeah, that bandwagon went off the road that game. So, anyways, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Take care, guys.
Take it easy, guys.